Hi all, welcome back. Now let's talk about database. So what is database? A database is an organized collection of data. A database is a structure where we could store the data. All the data that we store inside the structure will fit. Say you want to store some data inside a database, there should be a structure and all the data that you store will fit into the structure. So in the previous case we have some data. Say we want to store name, address, age and date of birth. So we will create a structure that allow us to store this kind of information. So the structure must contain name or option to store name, address, age and date of birth. And we design a similar structure that allow us to store this information, and we will store all the data in this structure. So database is a structure that allow us to organize and store the data in a systematic manner. In each row, so if you store the data in a tabular manner, each row will represent a set of data. Each row contains a same structure. Say if you took the rows, we have name, address, age and date of birth. And for each student, we have all this information, and we could say each row represents a unique entity. And each column, if you are closely looking at the column, you could see each column contains same set of data. Say name column will contain all the information about the student's name, and address column will contain string data about the student's address. So if you are looking at the address field, you could see all the address related information will be available. Similarly, age column contains numerical data about the student's age, and DOB contains date of birth, which is a date data types. So each column will represent or store same kind of data. So let's see how we could design a database. If you want to store some data, say name and phone number, there should be a data structure that allow us to save two column information. We want to store name and phone number. So the data space also allow us to save two column or two set of data. So our database might look like something similar to this, which contain two column. One is name and another one is phone number. And we will save the relevant information according to the proper structure. So name column will store name about the students, and phone number will store phone number about the student. And let's see how if we are designing a different database. Say you want to store 3 column information, you will design a database with 3 columns. Say you want to store department ID, department name and HOD. So our database contains 3 columns. First is department ID, another one is department name, and third one is HOD, head of the department. And we will store relevant information in each column. For each row represent a unique entity. Say department ID is a computer and the head of the department is Jacob. Similarly, department 2 is electronics, and department 3 is electronics. So we could easily design a database and we could store the relevant information. Now we learn how we could design a database, but see if you want to store more information, say for the same database you want to store one more key value, say location about the department, how will you store that? We need to update the structure. We need to add one more column called location, and for each department we will save what is the relevant data for each column. Say location contain building 1 for department ID and building 2 for department ID 2 and building value 3 for department ID 3. So this is how we will add extra column. Now we added one extra feature. And if you want to add one more row, say you want to add one more department details, how will you add? you will add one more row. Say in the previous case we added one extra key value by adding one column. Now if you want to add one more department ID or department detail, you will add one more row. So you will add department ID for science and the head of the department and the location information. So this is how we will add or design database, and it's very easy. You want to store 4 column or 4 key value, you will design a table with 4 column, and you will decide what kind of data each column is about to store. In the case of this table, department ID will store numerical data, department will store string data. In the previous case we saw how the age value will get stored, or we will design a table with which will allow us to store age value or date value. So it's very easy to design and add value or design a table. Now if you want to remove a data, say if you want to remove 2 department details, it's also very easy. We could easily remove the data. So this is how the database concept will work. So database will allow us to store some data in a systematic manner or a structured manner. So we design the structure and we will use this structure to store the data in a systematic manner. So that's all for this video. Thanks for watching.